Hi, I'm Siobhan Lynch. I'm from Politipeeps, and today we have Aka Niviâna. She is a climate change activist in Greenland. And in our last conversation, we talked a little bit about the culture of Greenland. And we want to cover climate change today. Aka, do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself?
My name is Aka Niviâna. I am 24. I live in Nuuk, Greenland, the capital of Greenland. I'm a writer, an artist. I do different things all regarding to the topic that I'm going to talk about. And I usually deal with issues about climate change and decolonization and Greenlandic culture and, culture in general.
And we also have Mathias Nordvig, who is a longtime guest of ours. Mathias, you want to tell people about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Mathias Nordvig. I'm an instructor and visiting assistant professor at the University of Colorado in Boulder, where I teach Nordic studies and also Arctic culture and society.
We wanted to cover a little bit about climate change today. So I wanted to get a little background on this, and we talked a tiny bit about it in Dennis's interview, but how do people travel around Greenland?
We travel with planes and boats. Like, for a little context, we have it's a big island, Greenland, but also the cities and settlements are separated by water.
Amenities. So obviously you have internet because you're talking to us.
Yes.
But I mean, how modern are the things that you can get in Greenland? Is it sort of like living on the frontier, or is it, a little more modern these days?
A lot of it looks like everywhere else in 2019, but of course we have the internet connection is worse than most places in the world, I think, and especially like when you get further north and away from the capital. In the capital is pretty modern, most of it.
We talked a little bit about the economy in Greenland as well. What are the things that are actually sort of rare or difficult to get? It seems like, we talked about pricing and things like that. Is the reason why prices are so high is because they're hard to get there, or is it because there's monopolies or other types of things in Greenland?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. We obviously can't grow fruits and vegetables everywhere here, so I think that's a factor. But also, we import from Denmark, and that's, even though the relation between Greenland and Denmark is pretty close, but the distance is pretty far. So it takes a long time with ship, and so I think it's a good mashup of all the things that you said.
We wanted to talk a little bit about climate change today. How is Greenland kind of affected by the climate change issue? Is there, what is your experience with this, and why are you so interested in that as an activist issue?
I mean, obviously our ice sheet, the ice cap, is melting, and that brings a lot of issues with it. We have, the weather is super extreme. This summer has been one of the warmest summers we've ever had, and the melting have been reached record highs, the ice melting. The ecosystems are going to change because of the temperatures are rising, in the waters. And for me to see, it's just warmer, but it also causes more extreme weather. I mean, in Greenland we've always had extreme weather, but to me it just seems like it's getting more extreme.
How is that affecting you guys, living there? What are some of the things that you're experiencing?
I was in North Greenland in the spring. I was there to do some research, talking to some hunters and fishermen. It's become harder to hunt. So a lot of people changed from being hunters to become fishermen because you have to adapt to that change. And also the thing is, with the polar bears, we hear about starving polar bears in the news all the time, but the issue for the people is that these starving, there's so many that there's not food enough for everyone, and their paths, they usually happen on the ice. The paths like are melting away, so they seek into the cities to get some food, and then they attack people.
If I may add something, so we can also see, for instance, the quality of seal is deteriorating due to climate change. The quality of the seal skin.
Right.
Sometimes what we see is that seal skin is the skin is simply getting thinner, and that makes it harder to process them. Of course, with when the ice melts, traditional hunting, you use the ice to move, but all of a sudden the ice is gone from the areas where you would otherwise go out and hunt in what is otherwise water when it's not frozen over. Structural problems. Another thing that we can see is that when the weather gets warmer, the permafrost soil melts, and that of course has an impact on buildings. I seem to recall that. So I lived in Greenland when I was a child. I lived in Nuuk, and I lived in this big apartment building called Block P, which used to be sort of in the center of Nuuk. And that one, we already knew back then that it was actually sinking because of the where it was built. And I believe they tore it down. And I don't know if that was because they simply wanted to get rid of that ugly big building in the middle of town, or it was also because it would be an immense structural problem in the city later on. But those are some of the things that we see, right? We see these very basic issues that are brought on by the changing climate.
So are there any positives to climate change at all? Is really the question on my mind here. I mean, it seems like if it was warmer, there would be maybe more arable land, or there would be, you could grow more there. You could be a little more self-sufficient.
I actually did on the same trip when I went to North Greenland that to ask, is there any positive? Could we use this for something good? Because we cannot stop it. So could we use it for something good? And I think the possibilities could be, new routes, where the ice is melting, new routes around. And as you say, I think if we could adapt that way, we could grow stuff and become more self-sufficient. But it's also, we don't have soil that at this point. I mean, not everywhere. So I mean, it would take a lot adaptation. I think the biggest issue is like you have to adapt a lot.
I think also one of the things that we see people hoping for is at least that resource extraction becomes easier. Access to mining and such things. Now, there are, of course, different perspectives on whether or not one wants that in Greenland, but we see certain politicians who are hoping for these things, right?
Exactly. And that's also one of the things that has been talked a lot about here, and also in relation to worldwide attention in Greenland, and the interest in Greenland is these possibilities.
One of the questions that I have is culture in Greenland. A little bit about sort of how people in Greenland live, what type of food do you eat, things like that are very specific to your culture.
Seal and whale meat, and for me personally, my favorite dish is like raw whale meat, frozen whale meat. And you cut it up in small pieces because it's the back. It's the back and a layer of fat, blubber, under, and it's really hard to chew. So you cannot like take a bite of it. So you have to really cut it in small pieces and chew it. And maybe with soy, or I don't know if you have it in the U.S. We have something called aromate, like this yellow salt thing. that we put on.
I remember that from living there. Mat deck.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's amazing.
Is there anything that, like, say if there was a signature sort of dish in Greenland, what would it be? You know, for people outside the culture, like if there was something that you would say, okay, this is sort of the essence of Greenlandic cuisine.
Yeah, that is definitely mat deck, you know, the whale blubber, or seal soup.
What are the things that go into seal soup? I mean, obviously seal. But
Yeah, I mean, there's this, what do you say, basic recipe of all kinds of soup. Either if you use seal or whale or fish, we have halibut. You know, we have the meat, maybe some onions, rice. You know, the thick rice you use for like rice pudding. Yeah, and pepper, salt. That's basically it. And then some people use potatoes or carrots or pasta or something in it. Like but like basically it's like onions, rice, and the meat. Because also the meat is super, like the taste is super, what do you say? Intense, kind of intense. So you don't need that much spice.
I'm actually kind of curious. How would you describe the taste of it? Because I've never had it. How would you kind of describe the taste of whale or seal meat? I mean, it's obviously, you know, I don't even have a reference for that. I mean, it's
also super hard to explain actually, because it's a super dark meat. It's not like red, it's almost black meat. It is actually black meat. And yeah, I cannot even explain. It's nothing like fish and nothing like ox meat or anything. It's just really dark meat.
I think the way that I would describe Suasset, the seal soup, is sort of, it has like an irony flavor to it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, you say that. You got actually, yeah, that's true.
But I would describe whale meat though as somewhat close to how I mean, for reference point at least, so it's somewhat close to the way that that beef tastes too. A really, really good steak. I mean, whale meat is better than beef, if you ask me.
I'm sort of a fan of like very, very rare steak. Like, you know, it's like you know, slaughter the cow, bring me the moo kind of thing. You know what I mean? So like, that sounds really good, actually. So sort of back to climate change a little bit. Fresh water in Greenland, is it common? I mean, obviously you're surrounded by, I mean, Greenland is almost the size of a continent, really. But it's surrounded by salt water that obviously, you know, but within Greenland, are there a lot of bodies of water and things like that make it easy to get fresh water in Greenland?
Like in the cities, we have like the same systems where you have to filter the water with, yeah. But when we're out, for example, if we go hunting, like out in the fjords, then in the mountains it filters itself, so you can drink the ones running down from the mountains.
So has climate change affected any of that at all, or is it just, or is it fairly static? You know, as far as the amount of fresh water that's available, has the warmth that you've experienced there sort of freed up some of that fresh water?
That's hard to say, but I can say that when we were making this climate change film, Rise from One Island to Another, we were in South Greenland on the ice cap, on the ice sheet, like walking there, and I saw that, you know, it was melting so much in the day, then in the night there would be kind of a river coming down, like all the melting from the melting of the ice sheet.
Does that mean it floods? I mean, are you experiencing flooding or anything like that right now, or is it, you know, I mean, Mathias mentioned the permafrost, which obviously could be an issue structurally. But I mean, as far as other sort of natural disasters, a lot of times, we see flooding here in the U.S. where we may have not seen it before.
A few years ago, there was this wave that destroyed a settlement in North Greenland.
I believe we've seen it with Gangalussuaq, where there's where the primary route out of Greenland primarily to Denmark goes, the American air base. There was part of the area that got flooded away a couple of years ago, if I remember correctly.
Also near Gangalussuaq in Sisimiut, there was this summer a huge fire on a big island, and it lasted for weeks. It was burning and they couldn't put the fire out.
And that is something we're seeing across the Arctic right now. Wildfires in the same rate or level as we have them here in dry Colorado. So.
Oh my God, that's. Yeah. So what actually causes that? I mean, it seems like is it just the heat or is it something else?
Primarily the heat, because I mean, we also have really dry air in Greenland. So in the summer, there is, if it's, too warm, it's easily, ignited.
That sounds very similar to the American Southwest, where, you have the air is typically less humid than the Northeast. You get forest fires in the Northeast, but in the Southwest, you get a lot of brush fires. And they can start pretty much a drop of the hat. Somebody drops an ash from a cigarette or whatever, and it just happens to hit the wrong place. All of a sudden, you've now got a brush fire. And it sounds like with the dry air in Greenland, it's very similar. And so when the heat gets higher, it's, the combustion point is closer. And so you end up having that sort of thing happen. Wow, that's fascinating. So I do want to wrap this up, but it sounds like climate change has really affected the way of life in Greenland right now.
Right. But the thing is also for me is, well, we have to remember, yes, the ice sheet is melting and all these things, but it's going to affect the whole world, and we're just seeing it from here. And for me, it's really important to let the world know that, okay, so I just saw this, it's coming for you too. So let's want the world to react on these things.
One thing, when I was a kid living in Greenland and we would fly to Denmark in the summer, I don't remember noticing any big meltwater lakes in the inland ice, but you definitely see that now when you fly over Greenland.
I was also super surprised when I came back to Greenland this summer, and as you say, these huge meltwater lakes, I've never seen that. No. Not on that scale, at least.
Thank you for coming to our interview.
Thank you.
So Aka, can you tell people how to find you on the internet?
I don't have a webpage, but I'm on Instagram, Aka Niviâna, with 2 A's, and not how my name is actually spelled. But and I have a Facebook page too.
Mathias, can you tell us how to find you?
Yeah, you can find most of the things that I do on the Nordic, or it's just www.nordicmythologychannel.com. You can also find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook through my name, Mathias Nordvig. And if you just Google that, a lot of things will come up.
So thank you. This is Politipeeps. I'm Siobhan Lynch. So share, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.